It's about 9 o'clock, so why don't we get started? Welcome to the first meeting of the Budget Review Subcommittee on Economic Development, Tourism, and Environmental Protection. Just want to remind everybody of new meeting protocols due to continuing issues related to COVID-19. Remote access will be allowed to all meetings for the interim, and I think today almost all the remote people are legislators. Members were provided information prior to the meeting on how to access remotely, and we won't have any material to be passed out. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll. Oh, and members will need to indicate whether you're present in person, remote from the district, or remote from the annex.
Senator McGarvey.
I'm here remotely from the district.
Senator Schroeder. Senator Smith. Representative Gentry. Representative Hale.
I am here remotely from the district.
Representative Kulkarni.
I'm here remote from the district.
Representative Maddox.
Present from the 61st House District.
Representative Rowland.
Present remotely in my district.
Senator McDaniel. Representative Petrie. Representative Reed. Representative Weber.
Present in the room.
Senator Caslin.
Remote from the district.
Chair Beckler.
Present in the room. Senator Wheeler?
Yes, Senator Wheeler, present in the room.
We'll go with it. Okay. I believe we have a quorum. I would ask all the presenters to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give will be the whole truth, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. First on the agenda is Secretary Barry and a host of people, I believe. So would you introduce yourself for the record? And anytime you want to get started, have all presenters introduce them, and we'll get going.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much. I'm Mike Berry. I'm the Secretary of Tourism, Arts and Heritage Cabinet, and I'm pleased to have with us today some of my co-workers in that cabinet and in two of our agencies, and then there are some other guests that will be introduced to you from the tourism industry. I'm pleased to have with us from the Office of the Secretary, Danielle Jones. She is our communications officer. I have with us B.R. Masters, who is our legislative liaison. The Commissioner of Parks, who's here with me at the table, Russ Meyer, and the Deputy Commissioner of Parks, Will Adams. The Commissioner of Tourism, the Department of Tourism, Mike Manchett, and the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Tourism, Mona Jewett. And I think I've covered everybody from the cabinet that is here. Again, thank you very much for inviting us here today. It is genuinely good to be here in person. We were standing outside a little bit earlier trying to figure out when the last time we were in the annex. It's been a while, so it's good to see you all in person. Kentucky tourism is an $11.8 billion industry. It brings millions of people, visitors, and dollars to Kentucky each year, and really impacts all 120 of our counties. In 2019, those are the last numbers we had, visitors to Kentucky spent about $8 billion and generated that $11.8 billion in economic impact. The industry at the time was providing about 95,000 jobs throughout the Commonwealth. When you take that number and add from our cabinet the arts and culture industry, that would add another $2.3 billion in economic impact. Of course, outdoor recreation, hunting, fishing, other wildlife related activities add another $5.9 billion and about 70,000 jobs to the economy. And then, of course, we don't want to forget the horse industry, the equine industry, which generates about another $3.4 billion. So all of those industries fall within or under the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet. One of the things that I wanted to start with is what the impact of COVID has been and the pandemic has been on the tourism industry. You're going to hear from some folks after us that have been firsthand, can tell you how they have been impacted in a very incredible way. The tourism industry was probably one of the most hardest hit by the pandemic. But I will tell you, I also came out of this realizing that folks in the tourism and travel, the hospitality industry, are great at thinking outside the box as well. There are some good stories out of that. You've probably heard me mention at other times that fishing and hunting license were an all-time record. You'll hear from the commissioner. I don't want to steal his thunder, but our campgrounds and outdoor activities at state parks and our golf courses, et cetera, have seen record levels. But we do know that areas such as business meetings and conventions that you will hear from, our hotel motel industry, et cetera, have really been severely hit by the pandemic. Kentucky has taken an aggressive approach to prevent the spread of COVID throughout the Commonwealth. And as a result, our surveys and the surveys done by U.S. Travel, which is a membership organization that we belong to, tell us that people view Kentucky as a safe destination. That's important as we're beginning to reopen and utilize our travel slogan, which this is temporary for this year: stay close, go far, travel safe. Research tells us that road trips are the most likely method of travel, and Kentucky's position within a day's drive of about 2/3 of the nation's population presents and positions us very well for that. I do have some more recent figures from the U.S. Travel Association. Again, that membership organization that we belong to. National travel spending in March of 2021, so a couple of months ago, tallied $69.5 billion. And that's significantly higher than the previous 4 months, but it is still below, 31% below, the numbers in March of 2019. So again, the recovery is already evident. We're just not back to 2019, which was probably, if not the one of the best travel and tourism years in the Commonwealth's history. Research also tells us that more than 7 in 10 travelers are planning a summer vacation. That's important because last year that number was only 37%, and now it's over 70%. So we know that there are people out there wanting to travel and wanting to travel safely, and again, that positions us well. More than 4 of 10 U.S. companies plan to start domestic business travel in the next 3 months. That's up, that 40% is up from 25% just last month. So again, we're hoping to see those business destinations, our hotels, motels, the meeting and convention centers, et cetera, see an uptick. The leisure and hospitality industry nationwide gained about 331,000 jobs in the month of April. That outperformed all other segments. So again, we're hoping that travel and tourism and hospitality are leading that recovery. And if you want to talk just another figure to add, and that's hotel motel occupancy. And I know we have a presenter who's in that business, so I won't speak for him. But the year today rate of occupancy is up 25% over last year. So it's an increase. And so again, we hope that what we're seeing is an important first step in the recovery. How are we building a strong post-recovery, post-COVID economy? We continue to make strides in our efforts as a cabinet to modernize tourism and to build long-term economic success. Over the last year, as you will hear from the commissioner, we've invested in our state parks thanks to the dollars that have been generously appropriated by the legislature. Also this last year, we've had some good success stories. You probably heard that Kentucky Kingdom, which is on the property of the State Fairgrounds in Louisville, was sold to Herschend Corporation, Herschend Family Entertainment. If you're not familiar with them, they own Dollywood and Silver Dollar City. They also own and manage the Newport Aquarium in northern Kentucky. Speaking of the Newport Aquarium, just this last Saturday, I was at Newport on the Levee where they did a groundbreaking, a ribbon cutting to finish up their 2-year, $100 million investment. And they will greet about 4.5 million guests each year at Newport on the Levee. In addition to that, Log Still Distillery, a couple of weeks ago, we were there in Nelson County for that opening. It will create 126 jobs, plus there's another phase 2 investment that's worth about $24 million that's coming. And then also, we've seen through the Main Street program approximately $45.5 million of cumulative investment in downtown communities throughout the Commonwealth. So again, these are just a few of the examples of some of the positive things that are going on in the travel and tourism and hospitality industry as we begin to recover and hopefully get back to that $11.8 billion number. Investing in Kentucky's tourism, just to tell you, in addition to our regular $10 million budget that we have for marketing, and that includes advertising, trade shows, and events, we did recently receive a $5 million grant from CARES Act money, and that will go toward expanding that travel and tourism reach, hopefully. It's going to allow us to reach further into multicultural markets, to national and even international travel. We talk about Canada. We haven't marketed in Canada in several years, and hopefully when the borders are reopened, this will also give us the opportunity to market there, to market more fully into what it will probably be one of the first travel segments to reopen, and that's the motor coach industry. And to get them back into Kentucky. Those of you who are familiar with the Artisan Center, which is one of our agencies in Berea, they rely a great deal on the motor coach industry. They're seeing a return, and we want to make sure that people realize that's an important stop as you head down I-75 or as you travel tourism in Kentucky. In addition to that $5 million through the Economic Development Administration, we recently received a $2.8 million CARES Act Recovery Assistance Grant. That will actually go to market our 9 tourism regions. So instead of overall state marketing, that will go into the 9 tourism regions to help draw people to specific areas of the state. And then finally, speaking to the arts sector in ARPA money, $800 million was recently distributed through the federal government and will be allocated from the Kentucky Arts Council to the much needed resources in the artistic community and the arts organizations around the country, around the Commonwealth. And that we know is critical funding because a lot of these groups have now gone on 2 seasons that they have not performed and haven't had the income. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Meyer and let him talk to you a little bit about state parks pre and current and future of COVID recovery.
Thank you, Secretary, and I want to thank you, Chair Beckler, and all the members of this committee and staff for taking the time to have us here with you this morning. It's great to be back here in the annex, as Secretary said, and mask-free, and just feels good to be out here with you all. So looking forward to this year and doing the work of the people and our partnership with the General Assembly to get that done, because the future does look bright, and we're doing great things, in this state through our parks, and it's just exciting to be out there and seeing it all happen and coming out of the COVID, and I'm just here to give you a little glimpse and a report on what's going on with our parks, what's happened in the past year, and kind of what we're looking forward to in the future. So as the Secretary mentioned, Kentucky has taken an aggressive approach to prevent the spread of COVID-19 throughout the Commonwealth, and as you all know the same. The array of services provided by the state parks created an opportunity for us to provide necessary resources that position the Commonwealth at an advantage for fighting COVID-19. Throughout the pandemic, Kentucky state parks have remained open for outdoor daytime use only to allow Kentuckians access to outdoor recreation. Kentucky state parks provided temporary housing for first responders and frontline healthcare workers during the pandemic. Some state parks were designated to provide temporary housing for low acuity patients and relieve pressure on our hospitals. During the pandemic, some of our parks also partnered with local schools to provide NTI support for children who are in need of internet access to complete educational instruction. This past year, Kentucky experienced record-breaking numbers for hunting, fishing, golf, and camping, creating a much-needed travel revenue. And there really was a true rediscovery that the golf industry has not seen in 20 years. And camping. Our campgrounds are, you have to book weeks and sometimes months in advance to get a spot at our campground. So the outlook for golf, camping, outdoor activities like that, and the rediscovery of these for Kentuckians and people outside of Kentucky coming to Kentucky has been very inspiring. Despite the spread of COVID-19, Kentucky saw an increase of travel, particularly in areas with access to lakes, camping, hunting, things like that. After reopening in June, campground occupancy was 41.9% through November of 2020 for 215,056 nights sold and over $6 million in revenue. For 2020, Kentucky State Parks room occupancy was 43% compared to 53% in 2019 due to the pandemic coming in. Through April FY21, occupancy is down another 1.4 points compared to FY20. However, reservations on the books for May and June as we come out of the pandemic indicate a healthy rebound in progress. State parks saw an increase in golf with the number of rounds in FY21 up 27.9%, another uptick in golf, which we felt good about coming into this year. Total sales by 20.7% at our 13 golf courses. Despite we had one golf course, as you all know, at Pine Mountain State Park, Wasiato winds. We had the bad floods in eastern Kentucky. This golf course was underwater with a foot of mud in most areas on the golf course. A team of about 5 or 6 people put that golf course in the position to reopen last week. We were excited to reopen it last Thursday, and it was just amazing what they did and the dedication these employees did for that golf course in our state parks. Prior to COVID-19, group sales made up a large portion of our revenue. In 1920, parks generated nearly $4.3 million in revenue compared to $6.6 million for 2018 and 19. This is the slowest of our revenue segments to return, and we foresee that happening. In 2020, food sales for state parks were nearly $8.7 million for FY20 compared to $12.8 million in FY19. FY21 is currently at only $3.4 million. Throughout the pandemic, Kentucky State Parks have continued efforts to modernize our park system through the Restoring the Finest initiative, which was a bipartisan commitment on the General Assembly to fund state parks and the much needed renovation of our state parks. And there is a whole lot more out there. Most recently, this critical funding has allowed us to embrace internet connectivity at many of our resort parks, including Lake Barkley, Natural Bridge, and Carter Caves. We have also implemented sewer and 50-amp electric campground upgrades, along with new ADA campsites at our campgrounds. While we have continued our efforts to modernize our parks, this year has presented our share of challenges as well. This year we have faced challenges at a few of our state parks. Flooding temporarily closed campgrounds at our two most popular campgrounds, Green River Lake, which is now open, and Fort Boonesboro, which is ongoing. It is closed at the present time and will be into the fall of the year. And as I mentioned, Wasiato Winds Golf Course at Pine Mountain State Park. Additional and structural deficiency at Jenny Wiley forced a temporary closure of the main lodge building, and that's an ongoing process that we're working on. These unanticipated repairs, while challenging, are not uncommon for lodging and hospitality organizations. However, in order for us to be competitive in the tourism industry and continue to attract visitors to our parks, we must continue to invest and modernize our parks. The future of parks will require a collaborative, bipartisan effort to ensure every corner of the Commonwealth feels the value that parks bring to the tourism industry. Looking ahead, our needs and desire to be competitive continues to grow. The modernization of state parks will require a continued investment in general maintenance for across our park system, which will include upgrade, repairs of signage, pools, campground, dam safety reconstruction, roads, and fitness facilities. We will continue to prioritize projects based on life safety, severity of need, and structural deficiencies. Investing in state parks is an investment in the tourism industry and is the key to Kentucky having a competitive state park that attracts visitors from around the nation. Thank you for your time, and I'll just turn it back over to Secretary Berry to conclude us.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. So in conclusion, promoting Kentucky as a diverse travel destination is an ongoing priority of the Cabinet, and we believe that we are withstanding the challenges to the industry because of the pandemic. In order for us to be a leader in the post-COVID economy, we must continue to invest in the tourism industry because it touches every community throughout the Commonwealth. With the support of the General Assembly and Governor Beshear, the tourism industry... I'm sorry. I didn't press the button. With the support of the General Assembly and Governor Beshear, the tourism industry can greatly benefit from the allocation of ARP funding. This critical funding has the ability to help communities rely on tourism, help them recover from their economic losses created by the national pandemic, and bring jobs and revenue to every corner of the Commonwealth. We know that areas like Lexington, Louisville, Northern Kentucky that rely heavily on business travel and conventions and meetings continue to navigate challenges, and they need our support at the state level to ensure Kentucky can continue to be a national leader in the tourism industry. So today, we ask for your continued support because we believe that the allotment of ARP funding for the tourism industry will help support every business sector in the economy recover from the pandemic. We appreciate this opportunity to come and present to you on an update of what's been going on in tourism in the last 15 months, and would be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. And members, the way I'd like to do this is the first thing we'll do is have any members who are in the room ask questions first, and then we'll go to the members who are remote. Secretary Barry, do you have any, can you tell me roughly what the decline in revenue has been due to COVID?
In the tourism industry, I could not tell you exactly what that number is. We know, as I mentioned before, we know hotel motel occupancy was down considerably. At state parks, it was at least 10%. We know in the hotel motel industry, it was greater than that. I'm going to look back at the Commissioner of Travel. Is there a number that, Representative, right now we're in the process of compiling the economic impact numbers. Early estimates are it's going to be between $2 and $3 billion down in overall Commonwealth.
Thank you. Representative Weber?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Barry, I have long advocated for the tourism industry. I think it's important in this state. A couple of years ago, my wife and I and my youngest daughter took a traveling tour around the state over the course of the summer, and we have a tremendous amount to offer citizens in this state. And I think we make folks aware of it, and they'll come not only in the state but outside of the state to participate and see what we have. I wanted to just touch for a moment on the dollar figures that have been allocated to tourism from some of the federal relief money. So, if I understand correctly, $5 million in CARES money.
That is correct. That is for overall marketing of the state as a destination.
Okay. $2.8 million in CARES recovery assistance. Is that in addition to the $5 million?
That is correct. That was a grant from the EDA, and that's the one that I spoke of would be used in the 9 tourism regions. So that will be not an overall marketing campaign, but specific to a region.
Can we dig a little deeper, and can you share with me some of the plans that you have for spending that additional $7.8 million to promote the state? You mentioned advertising.
Yes, the dollars are all for advertising and marketing. And so, again, the $5 million is for marketing and advertising the state as a whole. So that could be in addition to markets in this region. We're not, you're not as likely to see a big advertising campaign at this point in Atlanta or Chicago, but really we're zeroing in on those areas that you're going to get people that are more likely to drive in because people are saying they want to do the road trip. Right. However, we are able to, with those dollars, our plan is to market, as I mentioned, in Canada. Because we do get a lot of tourism impact from Canada because of I-75, especially as people head toward Florida during the winter, et cetera. And we would like to get them to stop in Kentucky. We have, in addition to that, some opportunities in international marketing that we haven't done before. We know that the Bourbon Trail, the Bourbonism, part is very important to a lot of Japanese tourists. But again, we've tended to start a little closer to home because of travel restrictions still. The $2.8 million, and that was a grant that was applied for by the Department of Tourism, again, will go to market those 9 tourism regions. So it would be specific to the Bluegrass Bourbon region or to the Lakes region, as opposed to a message that is just overall Kentucky. They will be in traditional media with probably a big emphasis on social media as well. What that's going to do is we're basically spending $10 million of a budget on advertising and promotions and events and travel shows, et cetera. This will give us, instead of $10 million, $17.8 million to spend. These dollars do have to be spent by the 31st of December of 2021, the CARES Act money.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can I have a follow-up? All right, so you mentioned a moment ago American Rescue Plan funding.
Yes, sir.
That's still on the table out there. Other states, and I think Wisconsin comes to mind, they alone on television advertising spend more than our entire budget to operate the tourism cabinet in the state. So I'm going to ask this question. What appropriation would your department see as a good starting point to begin adequately advertising the state of Kentucky to neighboring states, and not only neighboring states, but states that have good destinations, interstates that run north to south, east to west, that are in close proximity traveling to the state. Those, states, and I do point to Wisconsin, they advertised heavily, and they draw from all areas, especially on the eastern seaboard, folks coming to there. What do we need to do? Because, as I said, I've long advocated spending the resources advertising the state will bring people here, which actually brings more money into the state, which is, in my opinion, a good economic development strategy. So can you share with me what would be a good starting point in terms of an allocation of funds to begin to sufficiently advertise the state and begin that process?
And thank you for the question. And you are correct. Kentucky, I think, ranks 30th in spending for advertising on travel and tourism. So we're I would say that's middle to bottom of the pack. And certainly any additional funding in that area would be helpful. You're going to hear in the subsequent presentations, I'm sure, some numbers in what is needed to help some of these industries recover and to promote. The number that we were working in or with initially from the governor's recommendation was $100 million. But that $100 million, I want to be real clear about that. That $100 million included the hospitality industry, so hotel, motel, some dollars for it, dollars for the state park system. We have a lot of deferred maintenance out there, and to be quite honest with you, the state parks can use every penny that we can get. But on the other hand, we know that every penny is not possible. So those dollars in how they're split up and marketed, I would just tell you that anytime you can go, as we have recently, from 10 million to 17.8, it will make a big difference. And getting a percentage of 100 million to market the state, to help to our destination marketing organizations, those tourism commissions that are out there, to help them recover, to help our attractions recover, because we can sell Kentucky all day long, but they have to be prepared as well, and they're hurting and they need help. So it's really an integrated package, but hopefully I've given you the number that that was initially suggested. And again, we have constantly more information and data that we're seeking. And in fact, part of this $5 million will be to seek some data on travel that we'll find out what people want when they come to Kentucky.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I have a couple questions myself. How are the number of jobs that are generated, how is that actually determined? I mean, you spoke earlier in your presentation, you talked about the number of jobs. I see in outdoor recreation that says 70,000 jobs. what's included in the jobs? Is it the retail stores? Is it the custodians? What is included when you speak of jobs?
In the 95,000 that we talk about in the tourism and travel industry, those are direct related jobs. Those people who work in hotels, motels, those who work in the state park system, those who work in attractions, et cetera. I would tell you that is tends to be a conservative number, because who's to say a restaurant exists just for a tourist when it also may have folks that eat there from the community regularly as well. So those numbers are not going to be all inclusive, but it's primarily those that can draw their revenues to tourism and travel, primarily.
Okay. Commissioner Meyer, you mentioned upgrading a few of the parks with broadband. That's been one of my biggest complaints when I go to state parks is broadband access is poor. Well, no, it's horrible. So,
Agree.
What plans do you have to do further upgrades? Do you have a list of the state parks where you're going to be doing that? Is it a priority list? How do you go about doing that? And where does that rank on upgrades that you're going to be doing to the state parks?
Well, you're right, and I agree with you, and everyone here agrees with you. You know, our state parks are located in pristine areas of our state that are hard to get to. High majority of our state parks are. So it's hard to get these infrastructure services that you're talking about to the state park, so it's very expensive to do so. So yes, we are prioritizing this, you know, from a budget standpoint, and you know, as we always say, and we've said here today, we welcome, you know, that opportunity to work with the General Assembly to get this done and to move forward, because, you know, we've changed as a society, and expectations of our, you know, the customers that come to our parks. You know, when you go to our parks, you know, 15 years ago, you didn't expect to have Wi-Fi, but now today you expect to have Wi-Fi when you go rent a room somewhere, anywhere you go. But you know, it's a big challenge, and it seems simple, and you know, as I say, ideas are easy and solutions aren't so easy, but you know, it's on our list. We're prioritizing it. We're working towards it. It's basically a budget item that you know we're dealing with at parks, and we're progressing with it, and you know, making some progress with it. But you know, it's just going to be ongoing, and if we have the funds and to do it, we've got the ability to get it done. So, and Will, you might want to. Will Adams, Deputy
If I may
Commissioner.
jump in as well, part of the $50 million bond allocation from I believe the 2019 budget session earmarked some of that for infrastructure and utility upgrades and wireless and high-speed internet upgrades. We're continuing to work on those projects. If you would like, we could provide you with a more detailed breakout list of where we are on those different projects, because they are ongoing. I know work is underway at Lake Barkley as we speak to pull wires and upgrade the infrastructure there. But we've got quite a exhaustive list of where that $50 million is being spent, and we can provide that to the committee.
Okay, I'll get off that for a while. Occupancy. I believe you mentioned 43% is what you had. Where do you intend? What do you see that going to?
Well, before the pandemic, we were at 53%. I believe that's what the number was. So, you know, we anticipate getting back to that number and hopefully exceeding that number with the interest in our state parks and the really and truly the rediscovery of our state parks and with the campgrounds, golfing numbers going up. I see, there's the demand out there. People are wanting to get back to our state parks and eat there and take their families there. So, I believe we're going to better the 53% before the pandemic, but what that number is, I'm not real sure, but hopefully we can get to 60% and possibly better. But that's our anticipation.
How does the occupancy compare to other states for their state parks? Do you know?
I don't have that answer for you, Will. You may know, but I think maybe a comparable number might be what the industry, the hotel industry is in Kentucky, and I don't know what that number is, but it may be around the 60% mark.
I will add as well that our recreational travel has certainly surged. It's tough to get a lodge room on a weekend or a cottage right now. What's really we're continuing to struggle with is the group sales business. During the week, business meetings, conventions, trainings. Traditionally, several of our parks are great host sites for those. Lake Barkley Lodge is our largest park by number of rooms, and they're really struggling because they don't have that group sales component coming back to use the convention centers and that sort of thing, similar to what our private industry counterparts are facing. So that'll be the last segment to recover. Once that comes back, we think we'll do very well.
And just as an FYI, that number of occupancy in April of this year for hotel motels, this is outside of the state park system, in Kentucky was 45%. So we're not lagging too far behind that, but Will is spot on. I was at Buckhorn Lake last weekend, state park, and they're full on the weekends, and they've got, folks that are coming back. It's the middle of the week where they struggle with occupancy numbers.
Are the golf courses on the state park revenue positive for us?
They're not.
How much are we losing?
I was looking at this yesterday, and I believe it is, we're closer to breaking even, but I think our cost per dollar earned is about $1.07 right now. I could be wrong. I can get that information to you, but traditionally we were at about $1.25, $1.30 in that range. So we're getting closer to break even. Some courses are breaking even, others are not. But across the board, we're getting close.
You're not.
And the golf industry as a whole, in the late '90s, early 2000s, had a big surge, and it has dropped off. The golf industry nationwide, not only in our state but nationwide, it dropped off from 2004, really up to COVID. We haven't seen the surge or the interest in the golf industry. So, I look for us, capitalizing on that and look for better numbers, not only this year, but next year too. So, as I said in my presentation, it's exciting to see that come back, but we're still not at the numbers industry-wide that we were back when golf had the big surge. So it's a tough business. It's a tough business. I've personally been in the business as an owner of a golf course, and it's tough to put one in the black. It's just it's not an easy game to be in, and it's just the way it is.
Has there been any thought to just cutting the golf courses out?
Cutting them out?
Yeah.
I feel like that.
I'm not suggesting it.
No. I'm just going to give you a personal economic tourism answer to that. Is I think golf is a quality of life for any community, and a lot of these communities that have golf courses, state park golf courses, it's a draw to their community. So it's a tourism economic impact issue, not necessarily are we going to make a decision to cut that golf course out because it's not making it. I think it's making it as a whole in the state because of the positive interest it draws through tourism and economic development in these areas. That's where it's at, and that's as simple as I can put it.
Secretary Berry, I'm curious why Canada would be a good place to advertise and not Chicago. I live very close to I-24, and there are a whole lot of people coming out of Chicago going on I-24 on their way to Florida. So if we're trying to capitalize on people going to Florida, why cut out people west who are using I-24?
Well, I again, part of the tourism campaign this year and the emphasis was on this Safecation, and again, it's constantly changing. We may not be pushing just local travel come this fall. We're kind of looking at it in a month by month, and things are changing rapidly for all the industries, and we're not quite ready to open the Canadian market yet because we still have border restrictions. But that will, I guess, what I'm giving you at this point is just a picture of where we're marketing right now. And we have not gone back full tilt into the large metropolitan markets that would likely be served with airlift and that sort of thing, as well as the family jumping in the car coming in. We are really in the initial part of this campaign, we were looking at a 200-mile radius of the borders of Kentucky. Now we've expanded that a little bit as we have seen the interest out there. But as things continue to move, you may by the fall see, or late summer, see us trying to get into those markets as well, if the resources are there.
Okay. Well, we don't have any questions from the remote legislators. So thank you very much for your presentation. I certainly appreciate it and look forward to better times.
Thank you very much to Mr. Chairman and members of the committee for your time and for your interest. And please, if any of you have any questions about anything that we've presented, feel free to reach out to us. And then I'll leave you in very competent hands of the people who are in the travel and tourism industry in the trenches.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi. For the record, would you each please state your name, and then we'll get on with the presentation.
Hank Phillips.
Karen Williams, Louisville Tourism.
Was your mic on?
It was not, sir. Excuse me. Karen Williams, Louisville Tourism.
Mary Quinn Raymer, Lexington Tourism.
Okay. Is there somebody remote, I believe?
There is. Claude Bacon, Lingate Hospitality, Owensboro, Kentucky.
Thank you. Proceed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for the invitation to be here with you today. My name again is Hank Phillips. I'm the president and CEO of the Kentucky Travel Industry Association, which represents the full spectrum of Kentucky's travel and tourism industry. The folks who will follow me, as the secretary mentioned, are professionals who've been on the front line and have endured what the devastation experienced by our industry over the last year plus. I'm going to go straight to the heart of the matter and the point of our presentations today, and that is, in your packet you have a document titled Kentucky Tourism Recovery and Investment Proposal. This is our proposal to you, to the legislature, well within your grasp because it is based on an appropriation of American Rescue Plan Act funds. So we are here to explain the basis for that proposal and the three pillars that make it up, which are marketing Kentucky as a whole for tourism, marketing our communities, and then, as you've been hearing, a special initiative focused on meetings and conventions, which are the hardest hit sector within our hardest hit industry. This proposal, we have shared it with several legislative leaders. We've heard more than once. Don't expect any blank checks, and strings, meaning accountability, will be attached. And we welcome that. We welcome accountability. We welcome it first because of our confidence in the uses that we intend to make of these funds, but also and especially because we know the return on investment that will result from those funds and from those uses. A few points I want to share. One begins with this. The past relief this industry has received, such as PPP, as well as other industries, has been vital. But it's been vital for survival. And survival is not recovery. We're moving toward recovery mode. And in that regard, the American Rescue Plan Act itself speaks to the recovery of this industry explicitly. There is in the Act a section regarding impacted industries. There's one industry cited in that section, and it's travel, tourism, and hospitality. And I'm going to read literally for you from something that was announced just a couple of weeks ago by the U.S. Department of Treasury. They released an FAQ relative to the American Rescue Plan Act. And one of the questions in that document was, may recipients, and that means the state, may recipients use funds to assist impacted industries other than travel, tourism, and hospitality? The answer provided by Treasury is yes, provided that recipients consider the extent of the impact in such industries as compared to tourism, travel, and hospitality. The point being that as we come to you with our plan today, U.S. Treasury says our industry is to be the yardstick by which support for even other industries is to be measured. So, moving on to an additional point I want to share with us, we talk about and we are so appreciative of the increase in travel that's being experienced right now, thankfully. But an increase in travel, it's in relation to recovery, it's not a light switch. It's not something, an increase in travel is not going to flip that switch for an industry and for businesses that have suffered over 5 quarters, consecutive quarters of profound loss. And also with respect to the increase in travel, there's no reason to assume that without added marketing resources that Kentucky is going to get its fair share of that increase. And here's a fact. The fact is our competitors are not making that assumption. They are continuing. Wisconsin was mentioned. They are ramping up as we speak their enhanced marketing to capture that increase. This point about increasing travel and the competitive environment that has been created by it speaks to yet another point, which is urgency. So in addition to our proposal, we are asking your support to our encouragement of the governor to convene a special session as soon as practical to include within that call consideration of an ARP appropriation for tourism. One final point from me, and that is we're asking for $75 million, as you can see. in our proposal. That's a lot of money. We know that. But when you step back and put it into context, that's less than 3.5% of the ARP funds coming to Kentucky. 3.5% for the full recovery of an economic engine for this state. And to create a springboard from which we can rise to a level never before achieved in terms of our national and international competitiveness and the productivity that we can bring about for the people of Kentucky. And so with that, I'd like to hand it off to our colleague, Karen Williams, President and CEO of Louisville Tourism. I'm going to take 1/2 minute of personal privilege to be sure the subcommittee is aware that after 4 decades of extraordinary service to Louisville and the Commonwealth, Karen will be retiring at the end of this month. So you're getting to see her in her final phase of blaze of glory, and we just want to express our appreciation to Karen for all she's done over many years for our industry.
Thank you, Hank. Kind of hard to follow that. Makes me sound like an old fossil, doesn't it? Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee, for including Louisville here today to address you. You know, as you have heard Hank state, and you'll hear from me, we have all experienced great devastation in the travel and tourism industry. But before I begin, I think it's important, and Hank said it well, thank you for your leadership in managing it. We know we're not in this crisis alone. Your leadership, your time, and your efforts are very, very much appreciated. In our great state, I have always been proud to stand with my tourism colleagues, KTIA, the Tourism Arts and Heritage Cabinet. I want the very best for tourism in each of our prospective cities, in each of your prospective districts. We need to be successful as a tourism state to be competitive with the world. However, today, as requested by this committee, I'm here to speak specifically about Louisville. Pre-pandemic, Louisville was definitely a destination on the road. Following a record decade expansion, nearly every facet of the hospitality infrastructure was revitalized. The past 3 years were especially transformational as a renovated and expanded downtown State Convention Center spurred the simultaneous development of new and renovated hotel projects. Due to this growth over the past several years, Louisville was delivering 16 million annual visitors. In 2019, that number reached 19 million annual visitors. We were definitely, again, a destination on the rise. When we turned the corner of 2020, full steam ahead, we were poised, managing and ready to propose our 2021 fiscal year budget to be $24.9 million. When COVID literally stopped our world in mid-March of 2020, we quickly began canceling all business. Over the next 30 to 60 days of the COVID impact, we canceled, postponed, or rescheduled 463 events that totaled over 527,000 room nights for an economic impact of over $393 million that would have been in our city in 2020. And this number does not include the Kentucky Derby. We had nearly 60,000 hospitality jobs in Louisville. However, as we quickly canceled events, hotels, attractions closed as many restaurants shuttered. The hospitality industry quickly furloughed 75% of our workforce. The budget of $24.9 million, it's hard to say because we don't have it, that we budgeted for the 2021 budget, because of the cancellations, quickly became $8.6 million. This was our budget 10 years ago. Now, as we are ending the 2021 budget and we see business coming back, albeit gradually, but definitely moving in the right direction, we just submitted and had approved to Metro our 21-22 fiscal year to be $14.6 million. Industry estimates and predict it will take 5 years for our industry to get where it was pre-pandemic. As Hank said, and I'll reiterate, we are here today to respectfully request $75 million for tourism out of the ARP funds in Kentucky. This will allow us to be competitive, and in return, this industry will again return $800 million plus generated by our industry and the local and state tax revenue to Frankfurt, just as we did in 2019. In closing, to demonstrate if Louisville was to receive a portion of these funds, a plan that I shared with you in advance, every dollar we spend of our budget will always have an ROI for our stakeholders, our hotels, and to you. It is our goal to be accountable and transparent. We just need your assistance to get us there. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Claude Bacon, Director of Development, Lingate Hospitality. Claude.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee for the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Claude Bacon. I'm Vice President at Lingate Hospitality. Our headquarters is located in Owensboro, Kentucky. We are a hotel ownership and management company and currently have 20 hotels in our portfolio that are owned and or managed by brands Marriott, Hilton, and IHG. 9 of our hotels are located in Kentucky in cities Owensboro, Paducah, Lexington, Elizabethtown, Bardstown, Cave City, and Somerset. With my remarks, it's important to be quickly reminded of the past as it ultimately sets the stage for why we are requesting this support to recover now and even more so in the future. On April 24th, 2020, the American Hotel and Lodging Association released a report with these key findings. Number 1, 8 in 10 hotel rooms are empty. The impact to the travel industry is 9 times worse than 9/11. 70% of hotel employees are laid off or furloughed. Nearly 3.9 million total hotel supported jobs have been lost since the crisis began. And number 5, a 50% projected revenue decline for 2020. While these are national statistics, we experience similar results in our Kentucky hotels. With any business disruption that's this deep and this long lasting, it's going to require more than minor increases in demand for continual recovery and the hopefulness to one day flourish again. Today in our hotels, we are experiencing flashes of recovery. As the traveling public begins to reemerge, our hotels are inching upward. However, even with these small increases in demand, the road is still incredibly long for most hoteliers. Our financial institutions were great over the pandemic, offering as much assistance as possible. However, they didn't use an eraser over that period of time, and their pause in our commitments is coming to, and in some cases has already come to, an understandable end. In short, we need help restarting the tourism machine. The proposed pillars offer some of the most immediate ways to positively impact the hotels, but also sets the stage to increase demand for our industry that has the potential to return year after year. Fortunately, we have tourism commissions that have long been in place to market Kentucky and drive demand that bring visitors to these hotels. These commissions have oversight boards, budget procedures, and accountability to ensure the requested funds are used to the benefit of all in the Kentucky tourism community. The hotel room is critical to the expanded economic impact and benefits in these communities. Drive in and drive out tourism has a positive impact and it's important. However, the overnight stay sets the stage for expanded visitor spending in our restaurants, shops, attractions, and so many others. Clearly, more hotel rooms benefits hoteliers and their businesses, but the larger economic impact is at risk without continued support to recover. Hotels support job creation, small business opportunities, and economic activity, but they also generate significant tax revenues for Kentucky and local governments. AHLA and Oxford Economics reported Kentucky lost $134.8 million in state and local tax revenues generated by the hotel industry. With this, I thank you for consideration of the KTIA proposal, and thank you. And now pass to President and CEO of Visit Lex, Mary Quinn Raymer.
Thank you, Claude. And as my colleagues have already acknowledged, Mr. Chairman, we very much appreciate the invitation to be in front of you today to discuss Kentucky's travel industry. As you've heard from my colleagues, the past 15 months have been devastating for those of us who sit before you today. We've faced more challenges than we thought possible, and we have all experienced significant losses. However, as I've said many times since the start of this pandemic, even though our industry has been devastated, we have not been defeated. In Lexington specifically, our hotels lost $120 million in revenue from March 2020 to March of 2021. At Visit Lex specifically, we canceled 240 meetings and conventions due to COVID-19, representing 100,000 room nights and tens of millions of dollars in economic impact that never materialized for our city. This, of course, includes hotel room revenue, group meal functions, eating out at area restaurants, bars, visiting attractions and transportation, recreation, and business services. COVID-19 directly impacted the Visit Lex operating budget by more than $4 million. We began 2020 with an annual operating budget of $8.3 million, and we closed last year 50% down at about $4.4. Perhaps the strongest example of loss that I can give you is to look at a comparison from April 2020 to April 2021. Last April was the lowest occupancy ever recorded in Lexington's history, and we were at 16%. I am pleased to say that occupancy in 2021 was at 57.5%, which is a significant increase. Similarly, average daily rate. April is a fabulous month for us in Lexington, largely due to the Keeneland race meet that's running, and so we typically enjoy great rates at our hotels. In April of 2020, rate was $64.66. Thankfully, April 2021, we saw an increase in rate as well and are at $96. We're at $96 in last month. So we do see light at the end of the tunnel, and we're thankful for that. We know through a national traveler sentiment index that we follow that there is a huge pent-up demand for travel, and we sit before you today ready to hasten recovery for this industry in Kentucky. We appreciate the critical role that each of you has played in helping Kentucky manage through this pandemic and in getting our state back open for business. We applaud the ARPA funds that were allocated at the end of the legislative session, and we believe that there is one industry left unaddressed and still very much in need, and that is the Kentucky travel industry. We are confident that an investment in the travel industry will yield significant returns on investment for years to come. Specifically, as my colleagues have mentioned, we believe that in allocating ARPA funds to the travel industry will help us reclaim our market share. We lost momentum and visitors during the last 15 months. And we know that competition for visitors in the coming months will be fierce, especially in the meeting and convention space. We must be aggressive in our efforts to win back visitors to Kentucky, and that is best done through tourism marketing. We believe that investing in the travel industry will help Kentucky grow market share. Dedicated funds, spent with clear accountability in place, will allow us to outperform our domestic competitors, especially those of the states in the South that have already begun robust campaigns to win back visitors to their states. As a point of information, I was recently engaged in a panel discussion with my counterparts in Asheville, North Carolina, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was surprised to learn that our budget in Lexington is significantly less than both Asheville and Chattanooga. On the heels of the pandemic, Asheville's budget is approximately $25 million, while Chattanooga's is nearly $8 million, and Lexington it comes in at $4.5. I know that Lexington is every bit as compelling a destination as Asheville and Chattanooga. I might even suggest that we're more compelling. But there is no way I can compete with these cities when they outspend me on marketing campaigns 2 to 5 times as much. Kentucky is a travel destination that is primed for explosive growth. We have an outstanding product offering, inclusive of our signature equine and bourbon industries, our unparalleled natural beauty and outdoor adventure, our rich tradition of music and robust culinary scene. Every single county in Kentucky has something remarkable to offer to visitors. Every single county in Kentucky stands to prosper with a thriving Kentucky travel industry. We all know the power of travel. And if we believe in the power of travel, then you must also believe in tourism marketing agencies like ours, because we are the largest demand generators and drivers of travel to Kentucky. We can't put Kentucky on the travel map without your help. We request that the General Assembly make a solid investment to our industry through tourism marketing by supporting the plan that has been outlined before you today. And we appreciate very much your time and consideration.
Thank you. Representative Gentry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you would allow me to ask a couple of, or one question really, but I would like to get a reply from all 4 areas. We have Louisville, Lexington, Owensboro, and then we also have Mr. Phillips here that's kind of over the state in general. My question, first of all, before I ask the question, let me just say that people are itching to get out and do something and to move. And I see it in businesses I work with, the people that I deal with, and there is absolutely competition to bring them to our area. And I get that 100%. And you got to sell that. You got to be able to sell your area. You got to be able to sell what you have. And whatever I can do to help in that endeavor, I'm going to be fighting for you, okay? To get to my question, though, if you are going to make a major investment in your area, or you have some investment dollars, what is your sell to Lexington? What is your sell to Louisville? What is your sell to Owensboro? This can be a general answer, but sell me on how you would sell the potential tourist that's going to come in here, and is there anything that you would like to invest in, something new that might take your area even to another plateau? If you could all just spend a couple of seconds to respond on that, Mr. Phillips, if you could talk about the state in general, it'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And I think about that each and every day for the entire time I've been with Louisville Tourism. The good news is, and I think Mary Quinn laid it out well, and you heard Secretary Berry, is that we are a beautiful state, a state with attractions, iconic attractions that no other states we can claim to fame, including our bourbonism, that no one has. So in 2019, when I saw my visitors go to 19 million visitors, what we were looking at is, how are we going to keep up with this growth? What do we need to do as a tourism community to make sure that we do not let our visitors down? But we had the product. We had the infrastructure. We built 3,000 new hotel rooms in Louisville and expanded our state facility. We opened attractions. What we desperately need now, and I had not heard that Chattanooga, from my budget that should have been $25 million to go to 8.6, which now I'm near Chattanooga, is just unfathomable to me. So I know if I have the ability to market what we have, what we know we have in 19, that I'll be able to get those people back to Louisville, back to our state, Kentucky. So it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's having the ability to be competitive with this market that is going to be so aggressive. We've always been aggressive with Chicago's and Atlanta's and St. Louis's and Indy, but it's much more. We're all coming out of that gate, to use a horse analogy, at the very same time. At the very same time. I cannot, and you don't want me, as sending the receipts to Frankfurt, to come in last.
Mr. Chairman, this is Senator Caslin. Can I ask a question?
We're going to, Co-Chair Caslin, we're going to go ahead and finish with the folks in the room, and then I'll go right to you.
Sorry, I didn't know they wouldn't finish. Sorry.
Sorry, I will just pop in. Karen did a beautiful job sort of selling you on the why. I would tell you that if you were thinking about Lexington, that we would be a charming mid-sized city that you can't miss. I would simply say to you, you will experience the equine industry like no other place in the world. We also have the beautiful backdrop of bourbon that is an compelling invitation for many folks into the state of Kentucky. I would tell you about the thriving sort of university college town vibe that we have, which comes complete with wonderful arts and robust culinary scene. So I would try and basically say that we are in many ways able to offer what you enjoy about big cities, but with a small town feel. And I certainly would make mention of the fact that we're the front porch to the south, that really things do start to change as you head into Kentucky. From an investment standpoint, specific to Lexington, while I am really excited about the investment that's happened with the convention center, and thank you very much to this legislature, which helped kickstart that project, we will be unveiling a whole new campus in early 2022. There are a couple of other infrastructure needs that I would love, and I think we've got a couple of holes in our city product that I would love to fill in. One of those happens to be something that speaks directly to youth. So if I had all the money in the world and I got to go create an attraction from scratch, I would probably work on a science center, a children's art museum, something that would speak specifically to that age group. So thanks.
I'll comment
Thanks,
quickly on from just a statewide perspective, and these folks are the experts. But from a statewide perspective, it's really more of the same, meaning that Kentucky is always, in a sense, struggling to get to a certain level of public awareness of what we have to offer. Two quick cases in point. Several years ago, I was observing a focus group of travelers from around the country. We were testing their awareness of what Kentucky offers. Subject, Mammoth Cave came up. Mammoth Cave National Park. The people in that focus group said, yeah, I've heard of that. It sounds pretty cool, but I'm not sure where it is. Not sure where Mammoth Cave is. That's the challenge we have, is to break through the general population's awareness of what we have. And the way we do that is to emphasize a couple of things. Our diversity of what we offer. Kentucky has, I tell folks, we have everything from an ark to distilleries. You can find the experience you want to have right here in Kentucky. And then the emphasis on the unique and authentic people who live here and that visitors will encounter. That is a major selling point that we have going for us. We just need to be able to raise that bar and get that word out.
Yeah, and this is Claude Bacon again, speaking remotely. And Mr. Chairman, thanks for that question, because while we represent a number of our hotels in a number of different cities in Kentucky, because I live in Owensboro, I'll speak to what that might look like. Rolling Stone just mentioned Owensboro as one of 7 of must-visit music cities. So I lean on heavily on our Bluegrass Museum and just the unbelievable things that are happening here, and the recent billing for ourselves as the Bluegrass capital of the world, which is just an incredible opportunity to bring more music fans to this area in particular, and largely led by just so many great things that are happening with the Bluegrass Museum. You know, we've got a vibrant food scene here, clearly led by the different barbecue restaurants and things that are here. We have an unbelievable riverfront, as many of you know and have been here. The redeveloped riverfront is really second to none. And I know a lot of communities have a riverfront, but ours is special because we've got a couple of these incredible hotels downtown matched with a convention center that is first class, with so many more opportunities in that convention center as well. Then Green River Distillery and some of the great things that are happening over there on the bourbon scene. So many great things here that we would get the opportunity to enhance and promote more with requested funds like this. And again, in the other cities that we represent in Kentucky, we know there are many, many great things in those as well.
Thank you. Representative Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure who to direct this question to, so I'll just throw it out there, and whoever would like to answer can. Can you go, please update us on what COVID restrictions are still in effect for hotels in the state?
I can say for Louisville, we're really, COVID restrictions are really monitoring what the governor has sanctioned. June 11th is when we feel like as a community that we are truly open, but we have been really using the same guidelines as the governor in Louisville for hotels, attractions, and restaurants.
Okay, thank you. And I want to make one comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Did someone else have anything? You know, I've not been an advocate of spending money just for the sake of spending money, but I want to commend you for coming to the General Assembly with a plan that appropriates $75 million of the American Rescue Plan money for advertising and promoting our state and bringing those folks in. And as I think Ms. Williams, you said that investment, or we return $800 million is returned to state and local governments in the terms of taxes. But I just want to commend you for coming with a plan, because I think that's what we're going to be looking for in the General Assembly, not just spending $75 million to spend $75 million, but $75 million that is directed and pinpointed in areas that will bring folks from other states to visit Kentucky. So folks in wherever can enjoy places like Mammoth Cave and the start of the Bourbon Trail in Bullitt County. You know, they can come and enjoy those places. And so I want to commend you with that, and I would want to say that if I can be of assistance and help in promoting that, however we do it, whether it's special session or the next regular session, then I'm certainly interested in helping with that.
Senator Castleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the presentation. As one of many members of the legislative body that fought hard during this session to get our state back open, we're starting to see the effects of what these shutdowns did, and especially to the hospitality and entertainment industry. I don't feel that there's any industry that was hit harder than you guys are. And I appreciate your presentation today, coming in an offensive approach of your needs that we've got coming down. And, you know, this plan is to help save and rescue our businesses that hurt during the pandemic. And Clyde, I appreciate what Lingate does for our Owensboro community, and your willingness to sell Owensboro, but not just Owensboro, the entire state, and your investment there. And I appreciate everything you all do. As we look at that $75 million that you all are talking about, and then we heard from some of the state folks earlier about some of the $8 million that they're going to use. When you pour that kind of cash coming out of the gate all across the country, you know, those dollars are diluted down when we're competing for that advertisement and convincing people to come to our state. And a few of the questions I have, I love the comment about the front porch to the south. I guess if I could write a commercial, that would probably be my slogan there for Kentucky. And one of the questions I have is, what is a targeted approach that you all look at spending this $75 million amongst all the other states that are going to be doing the same thing at the same time? Like, it's not more of a perfect season to be selling Kentucky than going into the summer like it is. But what are some areas that you guys are really looking to hone in on?
Senator, this is Karen Williams, and thank you for that. I'm not sure if I sent my plan in advance, an advertising and marketing plan, but you're right. We realize that $75 million, and I also realize that Louisville would just receive, if those funds were allocated, just a small portion of that. But my budget is 100% from my transit room tax. I'm very transparent. Metro Council sees it. We're open records. So everything that I do from an advertising standpoint, I have all the data and updated data that tells me every year where my visitors are coming from a convention standpoint and from a transient standpoint. So I know, and as you've seen in that plan, it shows my 5 feeder city markets, and it shows exactly when I should market and how I should market and how much. And then I get the ROI on that every single year. So to you and into my constituents in Louisville and to my Metro Council, I can show you every dollar that we spend on marketing and how much is returned from that. That is just our responsibility every single day of our budget. So whatever funds that were allocated of this, hopefully, we'll be able to give you a report on a 6-month year basis.
Senator Castleton, is that it?
Yeah, just a follow-up comment, and I appreciate that. And yes, I'll go through the budget and kind of look at it now. And I just want to say, when we look at the effect that the pandemic has had on you all, and we hear from our parks and we hear from the different areas, the public-private partnership right now is key for the tourism when we talk about Kentucky. And I would really like to see the groups work together like you guys are and continue to figure out how we can get the most bang for our buck to get you all out of the gate strong. So I appreciate everything you all do, and hang in there.
Now I have a couple questions. My turn. We've heard a lot about the extended unemployment benefits being a problem with getting help. Do you all see that?
I think Claude, as the private employer, is the best to comment on that. I'll just generally say that, yeah, it's a factor. There's multiple factors, but Claude, as the private employer, I'll give him the opportunity to discuss what he's experiencing and his view of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's certainly having an impact on the industry. I mean, there's no question that in our own company, and I'll be careful just to speak for myself here and our company and what we're experiencing and having, but we know that we know it's having an impact. To what degree, that is difficult to determine because there's no true measurement for what that is, other than just the sentiment that you kind of hear and hear people talk about. We do know that there were a number of those hotel employees when they were initially furloughed that went to other industries, and now we're having a difficult time getting them back as well as they moved on to other jobs and other industries to take care of their families, and we completely get that and understand that. And as wages have increased, it's made it more difficult for the hospitality industry to lure those people back into our own hotels because our occupancies and rates, just the standard financial model, don't dictate raising those wages to the levels that it takes to get some of those employees back. But regardless of the reason it is, but I will say that largely this proposal that KTI has in front of us all today is focused on the future. And I believe that if we can get some of these things to end sooner than later, then we'll be in a great opportunity to serve the increased demand that we're looking for.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can
Yes, ma'am.
just add one comment to that. You saw all of us nod our heads. It's definitely the number one thing that we worry about every day, but it's somewhat of a chicken and egg. And I say that because I talk to my hoteliers every day, that during the week in Louisville right now, we're running anywhere from a 6 to 11% occupancy, which we should be running a 70% occupancy. And I say a chicken and an egg because our hoteliers from unemployment, as Claude pointed out, during this time of COVID, a lot of our people were able to go to different industries. But we also can't bring these people back just yet because we don't have consistent business just yet. We don't see that till the fall. So at Derby, they hired up and we helped our teams and hoteliers to make beds and do things. But you can't bring back, like our Marriott that normally has 380 employees that now works with 15. They can't bring back 380 because they don't have 7 days worth of business. So as we ramp up, and I see Claude, that's a plan that we'll be working with our hoteliers and our attractions and restaurants. As we see the business coming back, we'll be working hand in hand together on that.
That kind of leads to my next question, which is remaining challenges, public confidence in what's going on, et cetera. And this is more toward Louisville. You've been fighting COVID, but you've been fighting the after effects of the riots. How many businesses do you see that look to be permanently closed? Have you heard? As a result of either or both? And what are you doing, you personally, of course, what is Louisville doing to build public confidence so that people come back and are not afraid of what went on this last summer?
Thank you for asking that. I knew it'd be asked. Well, a couple of things, and you're right. Louisville did definitely suffer, as some major cities in the United States did, a double whammy with the social unrest as well as the COVID. I am happy to say to you today that none of our hotels or attractions permanently closed because of this. Did they close during some of the portions of what went on last May and June? Yes, sir, they did. But all of our attractions opened up in July to August of 20, and all of our hotels reopened with a very slim staff, but opened in September. Most of the restaurants downtown are all now fully open. We did lose one with extreme damage, but we have just been told, and I met with these owners, they will be coming back in the fall. So that answers the questions of what we lost. We quickly, last May, and as you can see in our plan, wanted to make sure that we had a lens of diversity in all of the marketing and advertising that we did. I've always felt that Louisville was a very inclusive city and our very inclusive state, but there were things that we needed to do. I have a client advisory council that I work with that are clients that are that represent every industry in the business, and we have been working with them through this process. I also started a Black Tourism Advisory Council, a Multicultural Council, which we already have had, and so we were proactive rather than being reactive. I'm happy to say that, and knock on wood, that most, if not all, protests have stopped in Louisville. We will always be disgusted of what happened of last year. But I also believe that from a convention standpoint, which Louisville is a very heavy convention conference destination, that they see what Louisville has embraced and how they embraced it from a diversity lens, and that we've not had one client cancel us because of last May. And we work on that each month moving forward and for years to come about the future. We feel much better today than we did 9 months ago about the social unrest in Louisville, but it will be something that we will continue to work on.
Thank you. Our time has expired. So I want to thank you all for your presentation. I very much appreciate it. And Karen, whatever your next adventure is, I hope you enjoy it. It's wonderful, and I'm sure you'll do as good a job of that as you have with this one. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to the committee.
Before adjournment here, members, please note that remote access will be allowed to all meetings for this interim. All members will be provided the information prior to the meeting on how to access the meeting remotely, and if meeting materials are provided, they will be made available online for downloading. If any members joined after roll call was taken, please indicate your presence and whether you're present in person, remote from the district, or the remote from the annex. Is there anybody out there who missed roll call? Okay. Next meeting will be on Wednesday, July 7th at 9 a.m. We are now adjourned.